Amen, amen, amen. It is my utmost pleasure to now welcome. She's often here, so that's the beginning of my introduction. We are so blessed in this congregation to have Lynn Goldsmith, who's a retired rabbi who served in Alabama, but is not from Alabama, but served in Alabama, has joined our synagogue, I guess maybe a year ago. Has it been a year? And her husband joined my adult choir. Like, it's all good. She's an expert clapper. We see that. It's so good. We're so lucky in so many ways. But, and has a beautiful grandchild. I'm allowed to say that, right? So it is my pleasure, it's my delight to introduce Rabbi Lynn Goldsmith, again, a retired rabbi, so she's only filling in because she's a kind and beautiful soul, but usually she acts as a congregant, and that's the best of both worlds. But I invite you, Lynn, to come up and to give us some words tonight. Thank you. And you can use this microphone right here.
Well, thank you, Holly, for that very kind introduction. I was beginning to wonder who you were talking about. And I do have to say one thing about Holly. I know from personal experience how difficult it is to lead a service and be responsible for all the music at the same time, because your mind is like 3 steps ahead of where you are, and sometimes they get a little mixed up. So, Holly, you're doing a great job. Looking out there, I can see that there are a number of people who are in my demographic, some obviously who are not. But I can tell you that there are some drawbacks to getting older. When you get up in the morning and you have to really think about moving because you're so stiff and you know it's going to hurt, or that day when you realize that you have lived so much of life that most of your life is behind you and what's ahead is a whole lot shorter than what's behind. But there are perks. One of them is senior discounts. It is absolutely terrific to walk into McDonald's, order a senior coffee, and get change from your dollar. One of the most least known senior discounts is education. Many colleges do offer classes to seniors either for free or for very reduced tuition. So Rob and I, in our retirement, are taking advantage of Colorado's University's Senior Auditor Program, and we've taken 1 class each semester for the past 2 semesters. This past semester, we decided that we would stretch ourselves a little and take a science class entitled The Search for Life in the Universe. It was a combined astronomy and geology class that began with a big bang. It carried through how life developed here on Earth, and then it explored how we know about how life developed here on Earth can be applied to other celestial bodies. And finally, we explored the methods being used to detect life elsewhere in the universe. Now, neither Rob nor I had taken any science classes since the required classes that we took back in college back in the 70s. So not only has science advanced by leaps and bounds since the 70s, but some of the things that we learned as scientific facts are not true any longer. We learned so much this past semester. Scientists have discovered much about how life began here on Earth and how life evolved from the simplest one-celled creatures to the complexity of human life. The vastness of our universe is breathtaking. There are over 100 billion galaxies in the observable universe, and there are an estimated 30 billion planets in our galaxy alone. So do the math to figure out how many planets there may be out there. The number is mind-boggling. I can't even tell you how many zeros there are in that number. Our Earth formed 4.6 billion years ago. We think that life appeared fairly quickly, about 3.8 billion years ago. Did you know that bacteria outweigh everything that there is on Earth? Bacteria. Their numbers and their functions are absolutely vast. And despite our thinking that we are so high and mighty, all the animals can be found on one tiny twig on the tree of life. We complex creatures are just a tiny, tiny bud in the vast tree of life. It's awe-inspiring and humbling to realize what a small life force we truly are. And yet, for all we know, there is so much that we don't know. There's a common ancestor to all of life, which is nicknamed Luca, or the last universal common ancestor. Trust scientists to come up with something like that. We don't even know what that is. We don't know if it's a bacteria. We don't know if it's some kind of an extremophile. We just know that there is one common ancestor. We know about DNA and how it contains coding for cell function, And yet, did you know that fully 95% of DNA is non-coding? We don't know what that 95% serves. So if it's there, why is it there? There was life called extremophiles, which exist in extreme environments, hence the name. They can exist without air. They exist in extreme heat or salinity or pressure or even radioactivity. We don't know how they live, but they may provide clues for us for other life forms. So scientists will continue to probe the universe and life on Earth to find the answers to all of these unknowns. And eventually, there will be many answers. Of that, I'm positive. But if we are able to find all of the answers, then what? And then how does God fit into all of this? Can God fit into all of this? And my answer is, yeah. When one of my sons was a teen, he told me with all the hubris of a 16-year-old that there was no God, that science was going to answer all the questions. So my answer to him was, who created the subject of all those questions? There is a Jewish particle physicist whose name is Dr. Pico Sanervo, who recently wrote a piece entitled Confessions of a Jewish Particle Physicist. And he said, I am in awe of this world. Each and every day, I am reminded of the incredible complexity of our universe, whether it's in the diversity of galaxies and cosmic structures, how the universe forged the heavier elements that break up this rocky ball called the planet Earth, or how biological life formed and developed into such intricate forms as we see around us in this room. This is from a guy who collides particles that most of us don't even know exist with really, really high energy just to see what's going to happen to them. And with all that knowledge that he has, he confesses that with all there is out there to learn and to know, he does not believe that science is going to ultimately give us all the answers. Remember Luca, that last universal common ancestor? We may never find out what that is. So Dr. Sanervo, I really wish he had an easier name, Sanervo continued. He said, my God is that ineffable being or essence that must suffuse our world and make it just so. Make it a world that continues to fill me with awe. It is God that somehow, and don't ask me how, has had a role in defining what the world around me looks like, that has allowed these emotions that are in me, that make me love those around me, and compels me to leave this world a better place than what I found. Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sacks, former chief rabbi in Great Britain, explains science from the perspective of a religious person. Rabbi Sacks said, science takes things apart to see how they work, but religion puts things together to see what they mean. We need both. Ultimately, I think it is more difficult to believe that our universe, our world, from the largest galaxy to the smallest subatomic particle, is just a random occurrence. There is a purpose and a meaning behind all of it, and that is where science and God intersect. Albert Einstein admitted that science without religion is lame, and religion without science is blind. We have to have both. As Rabbi Sacks concluded, we need science to understand the universe and religion to guide our way within it, from the world as it is to the world as it ought to be, a world of peace, justice, compassion, and love, when we, God's creations, honor God, our Creator. So, many years ago, when I was at Hebrew Union College, one of my classmates was Jeff Middleman. Jeff was smart. He was really, really smart, almost scary smart. And I wasn't at all surprised that instead of becoming a congregational rabbi, Jeff went into another very unique direction. He founded a group called Sinai and Synapses, which seeks to bridge the religious and scientific worlds, to offer people a worldview that is both scientifically grounded and yet also spiritually uplifting. One of the programs that's sponsored by Sinai and Synapses is to offer grants to synagogues to learn how some of the most thoughtful Jewish scientists can integrate their Judaism and their scientific work. This hopefully will lead to productive conversations surrounding Judaism and science. As Rabbi Middleman explains, it's not difficult to get Jews excited about science, but it is difficult to get Jews excited about Judaism. So Jews, in about the same percentage as non-Jews, will say, like my teenage son did, I don't believe in God, I believe in science and nature. But Jews, in a much higher percentage than non-Jews, believe that science and religion, or God, are independent of each other, and they think if they accept science, that they have to therefore reject God and religion. So Sinai and Synapses offers these grants to synagogues to present an opportunity for the scientists and the Jews alike to study the relationship between science and Judaism and to form a more integrated perspective of both of them. This will aid both the science community as well as the Jewish community. I was really pleased to read that one of the 12 synagogues selected by the Sinai and Synapses team to receive a grant for this program for this upcoming year is Har Hashem in Boulder. So after what we learned at this past semester at CU, both Rob and I are very excited about the programming that will be created with the help of this grant. And maybe after the learning afforded by this grant, more of us will come to understand that science and God are not mutually exclusive, that one is integral to the other. Kei Nihi Ratzon.